All-time record temperatures happening all across the southwest of the United States. Record power consumption in Texas. We have record power consumption in California. We have record levels of wildfires across Canada. And though the southwest of the United States has been very quiet this wildfire season, that's about to change with this heat dome just baking off all that excess moisture that we had. We got some serious things happening. We're going to talk about wildfires. We're going to talk about power grid stability, and we're going to talk about how this heat is impacting the crops across the southwest and across the middle of the United States. We got a lot to cover. This is big stuff. This is going to be stuff that's going to impact you whether you're in these affected areas or whether you shop foods that come from these affected areas, which is all of us. And if you don't want to gag on all the smoke that's going to be coming from the wildfires that are going to be starting up in the southwest and the wildfires that are going to get even worse up in Canada in the coming week. Let's jump into it, folks. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we cover a lot of the news stories that are either sometimes a little too slow moving for mainstream to cover, or maybe just a little bit too controversial for them. If you appreciate what we're doing here at the channel, please hit that thumbs up button. Of course, you can get more regular updates on news items if you go directly to our website, thepoplarreport.com. And if you go down to the link down in the description, you can find, and I'll post a link too, where you can sign up for the free newsletter that we send out every week about practical tips on what you can do to get a little more better prepared. All right, folks, let's jump into it. So we have record temperatures in California. In fact, so bad that we're going to have, it looks like today, we're going to have record high temperature in Death Valley all time for Earth. We're going to have the highest temperature potentially forever on Earth. So that just gives you a little bit of a sense of this heat dome that's just baking the southwest. It's setting record temperatures from all the way up in Washington State, down to down across Oregon, the California, and then you start going east and you start getting into Arizona, Utah, all that kind of stuff. Go across New Mexico, Texas, and you just go straight on west, straight on east. Sorry. I'm backwards because I'm on camera. All the way over to Florida. We're getting record temperatures in Florida. Now, Florida is not getting baked with a lack of water. The real place that we have a lack of water already, which is really terrible, is in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma. These areas are just getting fried. They're getting hit with some of this record temperatures, but it's not as bad temperature-wise there. But they just haven't gotten the rain. Texas has got water. California has gotten a lot of water this spring and this winter. So that's why we're seeing the wildfires over in California and the Southwest are actually some of the lowest we've ever seen. Only 700,000 acres, where normally they have about 3 million acres having burnt so far at this time in the year. So we're actually doing really good wildfire-wise. Up in Canada, opposite story, folks. It is record number of acres burned, and with the heat wave hitting up all across Canada, especially British Columbia, it's getting baked even more, and they have a lack of moisture up there too. It is just kindling for that fire, those fires, and it's going to get a lot worse over the next week fire-wise up there. Across the southwest, we have all that water that's soaked into the ground. We got rivers, we got all that snowpack still melting. So that's keeping things kind of okay for now. So, but with this heat dome just camping out over the southwest, that moisture is leaving very, very quickly. And we're going to see some big changes in the next couple of weeks. We're going to start seeing a lot more wildfires cropping up. And experts are kind of predicting that unless they get more water soon, they're going to see those wildfires explode from one of the slowest fire seasons to one of the fastest fire seasons, which could really take a lot of people by surprise. A lot of the U.S. wildfire fighters are up in Canada helping the Canadians. So when they have to come back to the United States, Canada's going to be in a world of hurt because Canada doesn't have a national level firefighting teams. They just have provincial teams, and they're already stressed, which is why the United States luckily has been able to loan a lot of resources up there to Canada, but that's going to change real fast when they start needing to come back down south. So given the previous year's mismanagement of the forests in the United States, we're going to see probably a very devastating season coming on the heels very quickly. All right, so wildfires, big deal. That means a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke blocks out the sun, which hinders the crops a bit. But what we're going to see, and that also tends to change the weather patterns a little bit too, at least locally, and can impact the jet stream a bit. But that heat dome just sitting over the Southwest is just, that's going to be pretty devastating in the near term. All right, so let's move over to crops. Crops across the Southwest, they have a lot of water, and they're used to high temperatures, but these high temperatures are starting to get to pretty extreme. Most of the crops that are planted out there deal with the heat pretty good, but we got a lot of our vegetables coming from the Southwest and lettuces, and they are starting to not like the heat. And so we're going to have, if the heat remains there for much longer, we're going to have a lot of we're hoping that the greens would start flowing and we'd actually have some decent salads. But I just ate a salad yesterday that was just all reddish, and I just got it the day before from Sam's Club, and I had picked out the best one, and it just, we're seeing just greens just not looking good, aren't we? So we got that, we got tomatoes out in the fields, we got all these other vegetables out there in the fields, and we're expecting that they're going to come in good, but with this heat, that's potentially going to change. This heat is starting to get up a little bit into those drought areas in the middle of the United States, and so this is definitely not helping. They don't need these record high temperatures in addition to the lack of moisture, so that's not good. Also, we have across New Mexico, Arizona, we have a lot of these farmers are used to irrigating, and they have a lot of water to use for irrigation right now. But like I said, that's starting to turn over, and hopefully that we get some more water down there so they can keep up with it, but that could change relatively quickly. Texas is starting to turn from optimistic down to a little bit worried, and for crops, and across the Midwest going up north, especially corn, we're getting into a critical season. Across the Midwest, they need rain towards the end of July here, so mid to late July and August is critical time that they desperately need rain. Some of the farmer estimates out there are that so far we're already going to lose about 3 to 5% of the corn harvest if things go okay from now. 3 to 5%. But if we have critical droughts over bad areas, we could start seeing those numbers go from 3 to 5% losses up to 30 to 40% losses across the United States for the corn harvest. Is that going to be a big deal? Friends, it could be. If we don't get rain soon, it could be a really, really big deal. Now, of course, Pennsylvania on east, I keep saying it the wrong way, on east is getting impacted by all this rain. In New York and New England, we got lots of rain. We got too much rain in a lot of places. So we have downed trees all over the place here in western Pennsylvania. Our church is still dealing with we lost 5 trees on our church property. So a couple of them fell on a neighbor's fence and everything like that. Crazy times here. So that's kind of where the crops stand. Now let's talk about the power grid. Is the power grid going to drop? Texas, they just had record power consumption out there. Now the Texas grid, they are optimistic. They feel prepared for this. Natural gas is performing very good, and they have all their most of their power plants online. Late June, they had some of those power plants come offline, and that was a big problem, and so they started asking people to cut back. Right now, they're just kind of doing the normal, please don't use more than you need kind of thing, but using record amounts of power in Texas ever, And then on top of that, solar panels, when they get really hot, start dropping in efficiency. That's one of the problems that always seems to surprise people. But ERCOT in Texas is confident that they're going to be in a good place, that they can meet the demand. Also, across the rest of like Midwest and up into the Northeast, we're not suffering quite so bad temperature-wise and such. So if necessary, the Texas Interconnect could borrow from the East Coast Interconnect and pull some power down there. When we got those, when we had the previous issues with the Texas power grid, we were getting baked all across the Midwest and up the East Coast as well. So everyone was switching on their air conditioners, and that was just making it so that they could not lend any power to Texas, and North Carolina got into a bad shape because they didn't have enough power there too. But that doesn't seem to be repeating itself right now. We're seeing actually that East Coast has got a lot of power to spare, so it could help out Texas if necessary. However, when we get over to California, it's a new story. California is having a lot of record level temperatures and record level power usage because of that, and they are struggling a little bit more. They are already asking for voluntary cutbacks, and they are closely monitoring the electrical situation. So over in California, the issue could be a little bit more serious, but their reservoirs for their hydroelectric plants are full. So that should be good. The Orville Dam and all these other dams, they have lots and lots of water to work with, so they can just run those hydroelectric turbines like just flat out, and they should be good there. When we had problems the other year, California did not have nearly as much water to work with, and that was some of the problem, was they were having to take their hydroelectric power plants offline. So that's not a repeat problem, so they should be able to keep up with power demand, but there could be some spikes that they get a little bit of a problem with as their solar comes off. So like in early evening, that kind of thing, they might get themselves in a little bit of a problem there, but it should not be long lasting. And like I said, with the hydroelectric capability, and they have their natural gas stockpiles good to go, they should be in a good place. Now, they're in a less than optimal place because of a bunch of the decisions they're making, of course, shutting down a lot of these power plants that they really need. But like I said, in the short term, they should be relatively good. Arizona, they're confident that they got this, and New Mexico is feeling good about it too. So generally speaking, power grid should be stable, at least in the near term. We'll let you know if any of that kind of stuff changes, because this heat, if we lost power out there, it would be devastating. It would be deadly. So watch yourselves if you're in any of those areas. With Phoenix getting up to 118 degrees yesterday, almost up to, and they're potentially looking at 120 today, which would basically tie for the hottest day ever in Phoenix. So we'll see if those numbers come in, but it should back off a little bit in the coming days, and they should be just getting down to the mid 110s. I know, just down to the 110s. So they should be getting a little bit of relief, but it's still going to be baking them for a bit. They're not going to get a lot of relief for a bit. And of course, like I said, all that moisture is coming off the ground, and things could be turning for wildfires as well as crops out there. If you guys have updates, or if you have any information from out there, feel free to pop them down in the comments. You can use the word update in your note, and give some sort of geographical location where you are, how your crops are handling. If you're a farmer out there, please let us know about that, and how you're seeing your crops developing and how they're handling the heat. Appreciate all of you guys sending that information in. It is always top notch, and so glad to be able to bring that to you. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out, unless you want to check out this video right here from this channel. I'll see you over there, and if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can sign up here. God bless you all.